Huge portions of our major cities are becoming disgusting cesspools of misery all over the United States. Previous generations had a standard of living that led to growth and prosperity, but that is no longer the case. Instead, poverty, homelessness, and drug abuse are on the rise, even in some of the richest parts of the country. In a short span of 2 years, thousands of tent cities popped up from coast to coast. Rats, human waste, and animal waste are so bad that San Francisco police got over 28,000 calls about public sanitation problems in just the last year. The decline of our major cities is just a sign that our economy is getting worse. And the biggest threat we face right now is a downtown that is getting worse quickly and is likely to cause unrest all over the country. But while some people are rushing to leave dysfunctional cities before another black swan event happens, millions of people are still stuck in terrible situations and don't know what dangers are coming. Today, we're going to find out more about this. Before we begin, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get notified of our new videos. We've been keeping track of how some of America's best cities are getting worse over the past few months. Economists, government officials, and people who live there all seem shocked by how bad things have gotten in such a short time. But the truth is that the social decay we are all seeing right now is a result of a system that has made it almost impossible for most Americans to do well. Because of crazy prices for homes and rent, millions of people are very worried about where they will live. At the same time, we have to spend more and more of our monthly budgets on the same things and services that we used to buy and use regularly. At the same time, inflation still eats away at our wages. Conditions at work are so bad that millions and millions of people are just giving up and letting despair take over. Faced with such a heartbreaking situation, it's easy to see why some of the most beautiful cities in the United States look like the zombie apocalypse hit them. Even though people keep asking for better repairs and public services, our leaders keep saying that everything is fine and will be fine. Maybe it's easier for them to think this way because most of them live in heavily cleaned up, wealthy suburbs, and they want us to trust heavily cleaned up corporate media sources. But things are getting very bad in the real world. A columnist named 𝐦𝐤𝐤 recently wrote an opinion piece in which he talked about how life is in Los Angeles right now. In 2021, he spent more than $620 million in tax money just to deal with his homeless problem. Still, the number of homeless people has grown by 16% in the past year. This means that there are now 60,000 more people living on the streets of the city. As a person who lives in Los Angeles, I'm one of the people who wonder what the mayor's office is up to. When I lived downtown, it was almost impossible to walk a full block in any direction without seeing a homeless person. There are 10 cities between where I live in Silver Lake and where I work. I see people living under the overpasses of highways. The skid is no longer just in Skid Row, it's everywhere. Granderson Road, sad to say, that could also be said about San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Denver, Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, Memphis, Cleveland, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, and many other U.S. cities. But without a doubt, it's hard to watch LA fall apart. People who don't live in the U.S. have an idea of what the city looks like that doesn't match the truth. In fact, the people who live there show us some very disgusting things that we tend to ignore. In a feature article for the Los Angeles Times, Steve Lopez wrote about how a city that has lost control is falling apart. A large part of Los Angeles has turned into a wasteland, with rats running around garbage piles in squalid tent cities. Lopez said that the city of Los Angeles has turned into a huge garbage dump. What century is this, he wondered? Is this the 21st century in the biggest city of a state with one of the strongest economies in the world? Or did someone turn the clock back a few hundred years? A few years ago, people who dumped trash illegally were a little more sneaky. They would throw their trash in fields, gullies, and other hidden places. Loot has kept going, and now people treat city streets like garbage cans or even toilets. The conditions are so bad that local offices are threatening to ask for transfers after some of them got typhoid, and many others showed signs of intestinal problems, according to the Times. In a formal statement, the LAPD said that officers often have to patrol in bad conditions and may be exposed to many dangerous things. In the same way, you can find huge piles of trash in every corner of New York. 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐿, who lives in the financial district, told Streets Blog, "This is how it is every time I come to this block. The trash bags take up the whole sidewalk," they say. "Even the sidewalk is off limits. It smells bad. It's a bad thing." The Times says that the Big Apple, which is one of our most famous symbols of wealth and economic strength, was voted one of the 3 dirtiest cities in the whole world. And despite the fact that garbage is everywhere, it turns out that living in garbage is very expensive. Since January, rents in New York City went up 33%. In Los Angeles, they went up 16%. And in Chicago, they went up 12%. But many Americans are realizing that they can't keep living in these falling apart places. So they're doing everything they can to move before another emergency, disaster, or economic downturn. A report from Movers shows that 8.93 million people have moved since October 2021. That's nearly 94,000 more than during the same time last year. Most of them are leaving New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, and Cleveland for safer places in the South, Southwest, and Southeast. The National Association of Realtors said that people looking for more safety are buying homes in the South. They thought it wasn't safe to walk down the streets. They thought things had changed and it wouldn't go back. One scientist wrote, "This change is happening right in front of our eyes, both in the landscape and in the center of our major cities. But the government says that the economy in the U.S. is still stable." Well, the truth is that the U.S. economy is a lot more stable right now than it will be in the coming months. But that doesn't mean we have nothing to worry about. With housing affordability problems getting worse, and a large portion of the population at risk of energy poverty this winter, have you thought about what those cities will look like when the economic downturn gets worse? Already, the number of people living in some of our biggest cities is steadily going down, and many experts don't understand the huge changes in population that are happening. Some families do it because they want a better life for their kids. But for many others, it's clear that things in this country are about to take an end-of-the-world turn, and that you won't want to be in big cities. When economic collapse, rioting, looting, social unrest, and chaos are all spiraling out of control, for example, the Chicago Tribune recently ran a story about preppers moving out of cities and stockpiling before winter. One of them, a 37-year-old sommelier named Trevor Traylor, said that the coming food shortages could lead to total chaos, so he and his wife are stocking up on food and self-defense tools and putting up an iron gate across their long gravel driveway. American citizens like Traylor are worried about what's coming, but they aren't the only ones. Even CNN reported earlier this year that the 1% are getting ready for the end of the world in billionaire bunkers. Many of the most powerful people in the world, such as hedge fund managers, sports stars, and tech executives, have built their own secret shelters for their families and staff. According to Gary Lynch, general manager of Texas-based Rising Company, sales for their specialized high-end subterranean bunkers increased 700% year over year, while overall sales increased 300%. It was stated that the wealthy intend to ride out the present economic downturn in style, while the world above them is practically going wild. The ordinary population remains utterly unaware of what is about to happen to them, which means that the events that are coming will unfortunately shut in on them like a trap with no way out. Most people will remain in denial until the end, and despite the fact that 61% of the population is living paycheck to paycheck, they continue to accumulate debt as if there is no tomorrow. The numbers are shockingly high. In 1950, the average annual income was 2.2 times the price of the average home. By 2022, it was 7 times the average annual income. Between 1970 and 2020, the cost of childcare went up by about 2,000%. Yes, you heard that right, 2,000%. Between 2011 and 2021, health insurance premiums for a family went up by 47%, and deductibles and out-of-pocket costs went up by almost 70%. Between 2009 and 2018, the average price of brand-name drugs went up by 230%. Americans have a lot of debt, but the cost of living keeps going up much faster than inflation. This means that we are stuck in a system that is doomed to fail. People always ask us how they can get ready for the coming economic disaster. One of the most important pieces of advice we always give is to get out of debt and try to become more self-reliant. At this point, everyone should be saving money as a safety net, because what's coming is no joke. Now is the time to wake up. Those who don't want to face this truth won't be ready to deal with the very tough economic times that are coming. That's all for today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to hear more videos from our channel, subscribe and make sure to turn on the bell icon.